A global financial market sheds billions in a matter of days. A massive scientific satellite begins a fatal descent into the atmosphere. A high-end piece of personal hardware turns into a live wiretap. We tend to view these events as isolated problems inside secure, independent fortresses. You don't expect your crypto portfolio to share DNA with space infrastructure or a pair of wireless headphones. But the events of June 2026 exposed the reality of modern engineering. Across every sector, the relentless push for faster development has forced creators to rely on long, fragile chains of external components. The same architecture that allows these systems to scale is what allows them to fail. When one invisible pillar fractures, disconnected ecosystems collapse right alongside it. Start with the code itself. In an 88-minute window, a North Korean state hacking group known as Sapphire Sleet compromised the Mastra AI software ecosystem. They didn't hack the main servers. They used a tactic called phantom dependency injection. By creating one fake misspelled JavaScript component, they were able to infect 144 other packages. Developers downloaded what they thought was safe code and unknowingly installed a remote access Trojan. That same vulnerability mechanic applies to the physical world. Consider Apple's recent security patch for Beats Studio Buds, which fixed a severe flaw allowing anyone in Bluetooth range to silently listen through the microphone. The flaw did not originate in Apple's code. It lived inside a shared Airoha Bluetooth chip. Because hardware manufacturers want to speed up production, over 30 different audio brands rely on that exact same chip. One localized error allowed anyone in proximity to activate the microphone on hundreds of thousands of devices. Moving fast requires borrowing existing pieces, but piling shared components on top of each other creates catastrophic single points of failure. Scale that logic up to Earth's orbit. The Neil Gehrels Swift Observatory, a NASA telescope launched in 2004, is falling out of the sky and will burn up in the atmosphere by the end of 2026. NASA faces a severe legacy problem. Older hardware was built as a closed loop. The Swift telescope has no external service dependencies and no docking ports for repairs. It remains uncooperative to rescue missions. NASA relied on the commercial sector for a solution. They gave the startup Catalyst Space an incredibly tight 9-month window to design, build, and launch a robotic rescue craft capable of catching a dead satellite. The modern space economy is no longer self-sufficient. Survival in orbit requires agile commercial startups acting as emergency supply chains to patch rigid, aging infrastructure. Zoom all the way out to global finance. This chart tracking cumulative net flow shows a massive $6.35 billion exodus from U.S. Bitcoin ETFs over a single 30-day period. The price crashed 17% alongside a brutal streak of 13 consecutive days of institutional outflows. While institutional funds panicked and dumped their exposure, corporate holders moved in the opposite direction. Michael Saylor's company absorbed the sell-off, aggressively acquiring assets until their reserves hit over 846,000 Bitcoin. The Bank of Japan raised interest rates to a 31-year high of 1%, yet the crypto market barely flinched. Because Japan paused their bond tapering, they essentially kept indirect liquidity flowing. Contrast that with Washington. When the U.S. Federal Reserve signaled they were holding rates steady at 3.5 to 3.75% without any immediate cuts, Bitcoin immediately shed $2,000 in value. A truly sovereign, decentralized asset shouldn't care about a central bank, yet its price action acts as a direct dependent derivative of U.S. dollar liquidity. A central bank's liquidity dictates the price of a decentralized currency. A startup's robotic arm determines the lifespan of a government satellite. A foreign state slips a Trojan into the open-source code powering modern software. Technological resilience now requires securing the entire invisible supply chain. The entities that thrive over the next decade will be the ones actively monitoring, patching, and defending these shared building blocks. Whether managing an ETF portfolio, launching orbital hardware, or updating wireless headphones, you must audit your dependencies before they break.